brother. Listen, Doc, we in so-called year 2023. I mean, we've been lied to so much. We
Mhm.
don't. I mean, it's so confusing at this point. One minute you hear something is good, one minute is bad. In terms of the holidays, in terms of the holy days, in terms of July 4th, what can you tell us? We hear so many people regurgitating information, but I want to know the brother who talked about this in the 80s and the 90s. I want to hear what you got to say, my brother, about this serious connection. We read about Sirius and July 4th, my brother. What can you just start out with in general? What can you tell us about that?
Well, at this particular time, and under our so-called present paradigm structure, in reality, the fourth of this particular time, or the fourth of July, was actually celebrated as a secret Masonic uh, holiday, and rituals were taking place, of course, during this time to reinforce those who are in power. But the fourth is where, if you want to deal with astrotheology, Sirius co-joins the sun at about 13.5 degrees of Cancer, and that happens through the first 7 days of July.
Mm,
And while you're dealing with the first 7 days of July, uh, Leo, which is the heart energy,
mhm,
is prominent, and you could see it above the horizon, and it's got what you call the backward question mark, and you see it rising out of what is known as the star. The brightest star in Leo is called Regulus,
mhm.
and you could see the backward. You know what a question mark is like. Well,
Yeah.
if you look at it backwards, that becomes the lion's head, and it empties out into what we see as a Regulus, and you see that brightest star when you're dealing with Regulus. Regulus is the heart star. It was known as the heart star, which
Mm,
is why most people don't know that back in the day, the election times were actually held in Cancer.
mm.
You see,
Good, Doc. Wow.
now the
Good.
election times were held in Cancer because at that time people were more empathetic. They
Mhm,
were more nurturing because of the mother. Your Cancer is the mother energy,
mhm,
and the Regulus, or the lion, it was called the lion-hearted lawgiver. That's
mhm,
who Regulus was. So this was the perfect time for those who were astrologers and astronomers and the numerologists, for them to do their thing when it came to bringing the country together and hopefully coalescing. Even though there was slavery going on, these white folks were using our energies and our sciences in order for them to bring together that particular energy that they had started, which they call the 13 colonies. And it wasn't the Declaration of Independence, family. That was the white boy snatching our A Declaration of Independence.
mm, mm.
It was not the Declaration of Independence, it was a
Hey,
Declaration of Independence. And that was us getting ourselves away from Black King George.
Black King George.
Yeah. And so, the entire, at the time, British royalty was part black. And most people are not really letting anybody know. uh,
Mhm,
as far as his story is concerned. So Regulus is the lion-hearted lawgiver, and it focuses the evolutionary and revolutionary energies of Sirius towards Earth, and acts as the subconscious impetus for independent thought and the desire for freedom, which is essentially why they would have elections during this time.
mhm,
Everybody was more in a celebratory mode. They were more about coming together and so forth.
mhm,
So the oh, by the way, I just want to go ahead and deal with brothers and sisters who are veterans and who've seen combat and have been in wartime situations. Back in the days when I was in New York, I had a lot of veterans who've seen war, who've seen combat,
mhm,
and when these firecrackers and all that's going off,
mhm,
a lot of people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder
mhm.
would go through a lot of emotional changes,
Wow. Yeah.
and they would start shaking. They would call me up and say, "Doc, just talk to me, let me just hear your voice on the phone." And all in background in the phone, I could hear pop 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 pop. So you can imagine what it's gonna be when you're in combat, and that all that memory starts rushing back because you're hearing essentially what sounds like a battlefield out there, especially when these guys are taking off with this. So
Mhm.
shout out to all you brothers. Hopefully, just plug your ears if it's not something that you want to hear.
Mhm.
Please, sequester yourself. Anyway, now during that time of the year, the sun in Cancer and the prominence of the star Regulus causes human consciousness and emotions to be more focused in the heart and in nurturing more empathy and concern for others. It was then in 1845 Congress passed a federal law designating the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. Now, the reason for that was because it put us into Scorpius. Okay. Now,
Mhm.
what is Scorpius? It's the constellation of extremes.
Mhm.
Think about that. The
Mhm.
constellation of extremes. The tendency towards uncontrolled emotions, the tendency towards violent flare-ups, and these are the downsides, of course, of the Scorpius energy, and the tendency towards self-destruction, overemphasis on self-preservation, volatility, secretness, um, a resistance to change.
Mhm.
There's a lot of what that particular energy represents, and it has negative vibrations which thrive on manipulation, which is why you watch these people running for president. They're basing most of their narrative on manipulation. Watch
Oh,
what's going on, because
okay.
when you're getting ready to go into 2024, you're going to see more and more of the manipulation based upon them telling you, first of all, they're going to bring up race, they're going to bring up gender, and they're going to bring up everything that's going to divide us, everything that has to do with divisiveness. Meanwhile, I don't care if you're Republican or you're Democrat, there's a uniparty that's running the country. And they use these, and everybody just laughs at what they call astrology. The Pope is the number one astrologer on the planet.
Mm.
They know. And the Vatican is the number one astronomical organization on the planet, bigger than NASA. The
Wow.
Vatican. They
Wow.
have the most. They have the most telescopes on the planet. The Vatican.
Mhm.
They have the biggest telescope on the planet called Lucifer. Of course, you know about that one. So,
Mhm.
as a constellation of extremes, the consciousness vacillates between three personalities: the Scorpion, the Eagle. What's the bird of the United States?
Eagle.
Eagle. And from the Eagle going into, because that's why you get all this war.
Mhm.
Remember, the United States began with war, and we've had 123 wars up to this point since they started the United States corporate country and the corporation called the United States of America.
Mhm.
So it has three. When you go down to Scorpio, you have three different personalities. You have the Scorpion,
Mhm.
okay. You have the Eagle, and then you have the Phoenix.
Mhm.
Okay, so those three are locked up in Scorpio. So now we are in the part where the Eagle is about to go into the self-destructive mode of the Phoenix.
Mm.
And what's battling right now is what and who is going to control what comes out of the ashes.
Mm. Interesting.
You see? So now when the Phoenix rises, what will the Phoenix be actually more focused on? Because
Right.
it's about renewal. But renewing what? What are they giving us? And now you're talking about dumping the caste system, putting on a whole other reality now for people to think and to react to. You're
Mhm.
not going to hold on to your money. They're going to be monitoring everything you do. So, where do we take, or what do we prepare ourselves for when the phoenix does rise from the ashes? Because I warn people in the last 10 years that we have been under attack. And this attack is is to subvert us by dividing us by race, creed, color, gender, and the whole 9 yards. There will be some kind of conflagration that's going to test the United States of America. That's why I say to people to be prepared,
Mhm.
because it's going to come a time when they are going to shut down your electricity, and they're going to do it in patches, and they're most likely going to do it if they still have control in the Republican states. So if you're in the Republican states, they're going to shut down because they're already doing all that particular mischief in the Democratic states. Uh, be prepared, because remember, we have over 4 million people that came in through the borders. I'm talking about cartel. I'm talking about Chinese military, young men of military ages coming through the border. You got people from Iran coming through the border. You got people that's going to be masked up, looking like Popo, but not going to be Americans. That was already proven by my son when the time came, when he went up to one of the people all masked up, and he heard them speaking some kind of Slavic language to each other. So your military ain't going to be your military coming in to quell whatever uprisings that you have against the government that is definitely going to turn you into the enemy, or has turned you into the enemy. So the good side of cancer, which is the time when they would have wanted you to actually, back in the day, do elect your people. The good side of cancer is loyalty, protectiveness, caring, and having an intuitiveness enough to know whether or not one of your politicians is lying their asses off. So who are we today? We
Mhm.
are waiting down in November, the coldest one of the getting into fall, when everything is dying. So they say, okay, now let's go ahead and elect some people. Watch what happens as we go into 2024. I doubt if there's going to be even an election in 2024, because I think that something's going to happen where they're going to have to bring out the military. So July 4th in Sirius, uh, 13.5 degrees of Cancer. This is a good time for uh, essentially getting to know who you can trust. And I'm talking about even in your family. This is the time to test to see whether or not you have family when the time comes, as we go into the next set of conflagrations when we hit into 2024. That's pretty
Indeed.
much.
Yeah. What is it about the red, the white, and the blue on a astro theological level, if that's the right word, where they chose those particular colors to represent
Well, the
America?
blue is Masonic. The blue color with the background, the blue that you see is the Masonic colors. The red and the white were adopted from the assassins. The the people who were actually behind the founding of the corporation called the United States, which essentially was the United States was a corporation of King George. And King George turned us into constitutors. Look up that word, constitutor. A constitutor is someone who assumes someone else's debt. The United States, at one point, was a defunct corporation of King George. King George, at the time of the so called Revolutionary War, was not only the King of England, but the King of France at the same time. So he was fighting against himself to get you to think that you won something in the Revolutionary War. All you did, essentially, was to become a constitutor, which is assuming the debt of another. And that's where they actually played up all the way till 1931 to 33, when they took your gold to pay off that debt. So uh, if we're going to be dealing from historical perspectives and dealing from the history of what this country was really about, everything that you're seeing happening today is happening because the Constitution that your forefathers and your foremothers put together, which was the de jure Constitution, was circumvented and placed on the shelf by the corporation, and instituted in its place were two other constitutions that run this country right now. And that's the Constitution that runs the what do you call it, the Washington D.C., and there's a Constitution that runs out of of Great Britain. Great Britain runs out of the city of London. The city of London runs the Washington D.C. The city of London is an enclave, a 10-mile enclave, just like the D.C., the District of Criminals, is a 10-mile enclave. And you're a British citizen. All this large with your capital letter names and all that, that puts you into a British citizen. The Brits essentially conspired with Washington, who was a cousin of the Queen,
Mm.
and they conspired to get the American colonies, which were at that first time black, the first 13 colonies, and that we hired the white folks to be the administrators, but we were betrayed. White
Mm.
folks used to use our flag, the flag with the green evergreen tree
Mm-hmm.
in the I forgot the part they call where the stars would be. It used to be evergreen tree and red. That's what the Moors had at one point. The evergreen tree never died, so that was our symbol.
Mm.
So that what happened was there was a mutiny and there was a takeover of the United States and incorporation. And what happened was the 13th Amendment, all I think was supposed to be 33 or 32 planks to the 13th Amendment, that got destroyed because Britain came and destroyed Washington, D.C. when we wanted to do the 13th Amendment to get away from her. And of course, we were betrayed again by Congress because most of them were essentially esquires. 13th Amendment was supposed to stop anybody who was connected to England by way of favors, by way of esquire, just like a lawyer and all these people. A lawyer is a foreign agent, just like the FBI are foreign agents. The FBI is contracted in London, England, in the inns of the court. So wow, there's a
Yeah, yeah,
battle going on outside, just like
yeah,
over
yeah.
here.
No, definitely. Let me ask you this, Doc. So, obviously, our ancestors revered this Sirius star in the constellation, and they built so many monuments and pyramids that was in perfect alignment with it. My question to you, Doc, is depending on the position of Earth and where we're at in the solar system, does that impact the level of importance of Sirius? Meaning, it was way more important in antiquity than it is now, or is it just as important now as it was in antiquity?
That's the thing that most of us are not actually aligned with because our perspective of what reality is, which is why I put on the webinar. The Earth is not spinning through space.
Mm.
We have to stop that particular mentality. It completely distorts what really is happening. The sun is moving at a almost what you call uh, it's not a complete circle. It's a long circle, and then it comes back, and then it was up here, causing the days to be longer and longer in the northern hemisphere, and then after June the 25th, it began to open up its circle more and more, and now it's heading to the southern hemisphere where they will have their summer. The southern hemisphere just had its winter, and it's now getting ready to go. When we get our winter, it's getting ready to deal with their summer. So when you're looking at that, you're not looking at a universe where we're rocketing at 66,000 miles an hour around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Our perspectives have been skewed. What we're watching is the sun's influence where it's positioned in what we see as the canopy of the dome. And during the time when the sun's influence is in that light code transmission, we get a kind of psycho-spiritual influence because that those stars and those configurations you see in the dome are actually the hieroglyphics of God, and they are interpreted through our emotions and through our inspirations and what it is that we're given, where the sun is at a particular time where the dome is, and where the moon is at a particular time where the dome is. The influence of all that light interacting with one another is what gives us our influence. But if we were really being influenced, if we were really jetting around the sun, then we would look back at Sirius over there by the time we came over on this side. So we don't see the backside of the sun the way that they have told us that we're revolving around it. That's the biggest. You notice why I said that is the mother of all
That's
deception.
very, you said that. You said that.
So we have to recalibrate how we read the stars and what the influences mean from a flat plane perspective, the way that our ancestors did it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the pictures, say, of ancient Kemet, and you see Nu, her body over the planet, and in this turn, Geb is the earth, which is masculine, which essentially becomes the son and the mother, the same way that you see Ast and Heru. Now, Nu is the stars, is representative of what you see as the Milky Way. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That never moves. Why? If you are spinning around the sun, why is it that you only see one side of this particular influence that we call the Milky Way? And at the edge part of the Milky Way, there is a doorway that the ancient Mayans called Xibalba. And we're
See.
supposed to be spinning towards it. No, we're not spinning towards it. The dome essentially is revolving, and it shows that we're revolving around what we call the polar star, and we showed that in our webinar. And where the sun is as that rotation is taking place, that's how we gear and that's how we read the stars. That's when we know when to plant. That's when we know when the seasons take place and so forth. It's where the sun and the moon are positioned because their movement creates a gigantic cyclotron within the endomed space. It keeps the electromagnetism, which keeps the influence of our environment and our atmosphere live. And we showed that how the dome keeps these electrical materials that come off of the dome, high electrical thing right above the clouds. I mean, way up above the clouds, you see coming down from the dome electrical things that they call spheres, and they call ews or elves. We are not on a planet spinning out into nowhere. We're not spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're not rotating around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. And we are not moving through the galaxy at over 1 billion miles an hour. These are all lies. So we have to start first with eliminating the illusion and the lie that we are on a ball spinning into nowhere in outer space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I had a interesting conversation with Blue Pill, and we was talking about July 4th. And one thing he brought up was their calculations using. I guess they're using this round Earth model to calculate as far as when Sirius is in alignment with the Earth and with the Sun, and they use dates like July 4th and New Year's Day. Actually, our New Year's, the January 1st, is an important day for the Sirius and Earth as well. So if they're using these round Earth calculations, why are they correct if they are using these round Earth
Because
calculations?
it's correct, because the entire system is based on it. It's
Mhm,
based on proving them as what is right and correct. If they were to go back to what the ancestors actually showed,
mhm,
because remember, it was the Catholic Church. You got to go back to what the Catholic Church did to everything. They destroyed all previous information having to do with the stars and with our very reality.
mhm,
See, for you to believe that Jesus Christ, the person that they say existed, that was God incarnate,
mhm, mhm,
for you to believe that BS,
mhm.
you have to believe everything else that comes from
That
that
goes with it.
place.
Right, right, right,
And so now, if they got you believing something that you know to be a lie,
mhm,
and you're not skeptical with everything that they got this fool Neil deGrasse or Neil deAsse Tyson, this fool going around pushing this globe Earth that we landed on the moon, and we're going to Mars and to Venus and all of this stuff. And guess what? The Big Bang does not real no more. There's something beyond the Big Bang.
mhm,
I mean, come on. A lot of
mhm.
people don't care because they just got to get the rent and they got to feed their family and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
And
Mhm,
so, if you believe that they what they're telling you, and if you look at the Big Bang, it's essentially them pimping Genesis and
mhm.
coding it into their own language system, which they call quantum science or quantum physics.
Physics,
So I call upon people's righteous reason and logic and ask them, do they believe that a Caucasoid man, even a black man they call him, walked the earth, who was God's only, only begotten son?
mm,
I want you to ask me, why is it that they found 145 similarities between Heru and Christ?
mm, mhm,
So now the education system, what we call the education system, the books you read are actually edited in the Vatican before they are distributed in Western civilization.
mm,
So now, if you are believing that they're telling you that there was a person named Jesus Christ who, at 33 years of age, came out to lecture and after a while was killed and came back from the dead. And when he was crucified on the cross, all of the graves of the dead opened up and walked the earth.
mhm,
If you believe that
mhm,
garbage, why is it you're so quick to believe that we're on a spinning ball going at 1,038 miles an hour, spinning around a sun at 66,000 miles an hour? Do you know what that means? So if I can just impart to you to use your reason and your reality, that your reality complex that's in your heart, to look around you at the horizon, to look at the sun, to look at the
mhm,
clouds as they stand right there, not going in the direction that they, but it stands and goes in the opposite direction. Take a look at what they're giving to you in the school books, what they're pushing on your children. I even showed in my lecture how they're soft soaping the new paradigm, where they are completely throwing out all of what they told you they accomplished. They went to the moon. No, we can't go to the moon right now because we have to accomplish this first. Of
mm.
course, the little children don't know nothing about 1969.
Right, right,
They're
right.
not teaching that in school anymore.
Mhm,
They're telling you, oh, we're going to Mars. They tell you they landed on Mars. They didn't land on Mars. There's an island up around Canada that has nothing but red sand. That's where they shoot it. And they got busted one day because they shot some little rat-like gerbil creature who you thought was a rock. The
Hmm.
thing was just sitting there trying not to be seen, and they didn't see it.
Hmm.
So when we get out of the globe earth, what I call us being inebriated with the philosophy, the quantum churches, the quantum cults philosophy, they got you inebriated and drunk on this lie. I call you a globaholic. Once you become clean, you will understand that there is a reality, a world that will open up to you that is so different that will put you right back in touch with your ancestors' consciousness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay? So if we're talking about Sirius, if we're talking about Orion, if we're talking about Scorpius, if we're talking about Epheus, which is the 13th zodiac, we have to look at it from a perspective of where the sun is positioned at that time within the context of the dome.
Hmm.
And then we will be getting true readings.
Hmm. Doc, you've introduced a lot of different studies to the, if that's the right word, to the community, sun gazing and
Mhm.
self hypnosis and grounding and things of that nature. Have you ever like try to communicate with the Sirius star? Like some people say you can harness the blue light from the Sirius star. Like there's a lot of people on the website that said the sun got the golden light and Sirius got the blue light. Have you ever done any type of rituals with the Sirius star at night and tried and attempted to harness energy from it, like we do with
Well,
the sun and sun gazing?
yeah, back in the day, we did when I had broken away, when the four and I had separated. I went to a few um, what we call sweat lodges,
Mm-hmm.
and we did rituals during that time of for Sirius, and we did a cleansing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And when they talk about the blue light, that's why I say it is the Masonic symbol. They adopted that symbol. They took that symbol from ancient Kemet,
Mm-hmm.
because the alignment of what we call the Great Pyramid to Orion, and one of the portals aligns directly to the star Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
Sirius is not a binary system; it's a trinary system.
Mm-hmm.
There's Sirius A, B, and the Dogon knew of Sirius C, but the
Mm-hmm.
European, the white man, didn't know about that. When they went to visit the Dogon and they wanted to know what was really going on in the ritual, they didn't know that Sirius C existed until the French went to the Dogon and found out that Sirius C existed. How did they know that?
Mm-hmm.
And they said that the Ijiji and that the people who told them, the fishermen who told them, came and told them more about the stars. And now they have, you noticed that in a lot of the memes, you're seeing a lot of people talking about mermaids.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and a lot of the what they call myths of so-called ancient black and brown copper tone people have to do with those entities that visited us underground
Mm-hmm.
through the portals that exist under our earth into places under the ocean, land areas under the ocean where the oil flows, because the oil flows from a whole other geographic perspective beyond the Antarctic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so there are portals under the Antarctic which the Nazis found, and so they are over there. Just look at it as concentric circles.
Mm-hmm.
One circle is us, and that inner circle that you see from the United Nations, that's the Antarctic with the wreath.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other circles of ice and lands in between each of them, spreading out into infinity. And if they're going to go to Mars, they're going to land features through the dome or under the dome. That's why it is that you notice that Tesla wasn't talking about rockets. He was talking about rockets coming back. That's not the deal. He is dealing with tunneling. Remember, he was telling you he's going to build a tunnel all the
Mm-hmm.
way to Los Angeles?
Mm-hmm.
No, he's experimenting on tunnels under the Antarctic where they found old bases that belonged to the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And those tunnels he want to build goes under the ocean floor, and it comes up. Matter of fact, there was a German who built a paradise for Adolf Hitler beyond the Antarctic, and they called that paradise Asgard.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the Nordics that you see dealing with it, they're keeping us constrained, but they're black. There is a way out of our Antarctic, and it's called the Gate of Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
And that Gate of Osiris leads us into a whole other ocean
Mm-hmm.
and into lands that exist way beyond our reality. Not Bird, but Perry or Bird. One of them visited that. They were visited by those people, and that's when Perry came back. Was not Perry? Wow, went into a blank. Um, Phew, it was not Perry. Somebody there understand. But anyway, when he came back, that's when Majestic 12 was created.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he went up to, as soon as what was his name? Admiral Byrd. As soon as Admiral Byrd went up to the Antarctic, he went up there with an armada, a war armada, a battle armada, to root out the Germans that had set up headquarters there, the
Wow.
Nazis. When he went there, what happened was he was met by flying saucers, or he was met by these and Hanebu is what they were called. The Hanebu were these saucers of different sizes that the Nazis had developed, and he went there with Byrd went there with a two battleships, two destroyers, I believe. He went with steamers, I think 4,700 men, and aircraft carrier. As soon as he went up there, he was up there for like maybe 10 days. He was supposed to stay up there and build all kinds of institutions and everything to study cold and all that. And that was the nonsense. He came back in 12 to 13 days. He had lost these ships. He came up there with 4,700 men, got back to the States with only 1,200. They wiped him out damn near. When he got back there, he said, "We got a problem. These guys got ships that can get to us, that fly at unbelievable speeds with weaponry that is way beyond our technology. We got to do something." So that's when Truman signed off on creating Majestic 12. And Majestic 12 is the one that guards and hides all of the knowledge of any so-called extraterrestrial or other uh, I go to extra human beings. So Sirius, yes, Sirius essentially is. They say we're from Sirius. No, when somebody says you're from Sirius, what they're saying is that you're from the consciousness that Sirius gives us. When I say I'm from Sirius, I could say I'm from Orion. I could say that I'm from Pleiades, that they call it. All the different writings or all the different hieroglyphics on the dome, they give off an influence. We were given that in order to read and to know the cycles that our consciousness takes
Mm-hmm.
as the sun is in each of these particular hieroglyphics of the sky.
Man, it's always such an interesting conversation when I talk to you. Like you always make me got to go back and do some research and look up some of the stuff you talk about,
You know,
Doc.
and it sounds like
Definitely. Wow.
it sounds so contrary to everything that everybody's saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, you know,
wow.
it's like, yeah, should I believe him? Everybody says, well, I don't know because there's so much information coming. That's why I will stay on a certain course until
Mm,
people catch up.
mm.
Because you know that every time I do say something, it sounds crazy. They leave, and then they say, "Wait a minute, I remember Dr. V saying something
Talk
about,
about yep.
yeah, the HIV, and I remember
Mm.
saying something about the Bible. I remember he did a series about the Bible about AB and a third. Yeah, go
Mm.
back. That's back when I had dark hair.
But
I didn't have
yeah,
this face. I didn't have this belly, and yeah, I'm glad
yeah.
I left that there for people. It's like little breadcrumbs along a trail that most
Oh
people
yeah.
take.
Oh yeah. No, definitely, Doc. Definitely. We're not gonna keep the family too long tonight.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have Doc back here before the month is out. I'm gonna have Doc back on here. But before we get out of here, Doc, one more time, tell the people about the rebroadcast of the
Yeah,
webinar.
thank you so much,
Yes, sir.
everybody. Please, I would love to see you there. I don't know when I'll do the next one because it took me 4 months to prepare this one, maybe 5 months. Because usually when I announce that I'm going to do one, it's usually about 5 months before I actually set the date because I've already worked on it. But it's on the 22nd at 12 noon. And if you want the link, uh, brother Rich has that
Description.
in the description. And I want to let everybody know that my wife's book is looks like it's going to be published by October.
Mhm.
And I also want to big up your particular program that's getting ready to happen.
Thank you.
This program with the
Blueprint for God Power Part Two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
listen, this young brother has been on the frequency, and the people that he brings on, he becomes like the herald. He guides the ship, and they're the ones that point in certain directions, navigate the different zones of reality and consciousness.
Mhm.
Please support this brother's work. He is doing a yeoman's job, and with all of that, my numbers. I guess everything is in the section there for people to see.
Mhm.
Um, Listen, my last thing is for those of you who have been sending me messages to get you to um, the blood right ears. I'm not answering anything until after the 22nd. Okay, they're right now swamped based upon me giving that information out. I've been
Mhm.
trying to get as much information. Right now, I look at there must be maybe close to 100 people that I have to actually take each of their 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 emails, put it
Mhm.
aside, and then send it to the brothers who are going to help you with the blood right ears. So please have patience. I will get to that, but right now my main thing is promoting and getting myself ready for the 22nd of this month. Once again, Brother Rich, I thank you so much for allowing me to occupy your platform. And hopefully, what it is that I've said doesn't upset too many people. Them thinking that they were spinning on a globe and that Sirius is somewhere over there and over here. No, it's not that. The
Mhm.
very reason, listen very carefully, the very reason that the Great Pyramid can actually stay where it does, and they have that portal that faces Sirius all the time, and
Mhm.
they have another portal that faces Orion all the time, means that
Mhm.
we're not running around the sun, spinning, all over the place. No, we are stationary as an Earth, and everything else is moving around us.
Very interesting. I absolutely love the conversation, Doc. I look forward to the 22nd, and I'll see you on here in a couple of weeks, Doc.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Peace.
Peace. Is that you have been working on over the last 7 years,
Mm,
or the 7 year cycle, you should
mm,
see a lot of manifesting of it. And this is where you're going to see the same thing happens for people who are working on what we call the good side and the one working on the evil side.
mm,
When you're working on the evil side, you're going to see things coming into fruition. But it's also that the good side will also be seeing the karma from those who've been practicing the evil side. So
mm,
a lot of justice will be seen at this particular time. So seven is that jump off point to the number eight, which is as above, so below. So a lot of your affirmations are going to start coming through
mm,
at this point. But the thing is, this is the resting period. This is the meditative period. This is
mm,
the period when you meditate on the thing you want and don't bring anything in to try to rush it, to try to qualify it. It's working its way, just the way that a baby in the womb, nature knows what to do to bring that body to life.
mm,
So nature knows what to do with your affirmation, and you have to now release that affirmation, but hold it as a nebulous energy signature. Don't
mm,
hold it and try to say, "Well, this is what I want to." Yeah, you've already done that. I hope,
mm,
and then now you allow it to happen. And
mhm,
that's the beauty of what this year will be. But it's going to be a lot of turmoil, just as much turmoil as a woman having birth.
mm,
Yeah. So you have to understand a lot of things will be happening during this time, but it's still a resting period.
mhm,
Seven, when they talk about the seventh cycle. But this is when metaphysics will be at its height.
mhm,
This is where the metaphysical principles of manifestation, of justice, of what go around come around,
mm.
all of this is where it happens within a seven cycle.
Why did God rest on the seventh day, as they say? What is it about seven that God rested on the seventh day?
It's an accretion cycle. The When we talk about consciousness accretion,
Mm-hmm.
it happens during the spin orientation of particular particles. As the spin orientation happens, you see, say for instance, if you're looking at the periodic table,
Mm-hmm.
well, there are periods where things what looks like evolution, but it's actually enhancement of a specific consciousness cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 1.1
Mm-hmm.
point one, then you have 1.1.2, 1.1.3, all the way up to 1.1.6, and then it goes to 1.1.7.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're dealing with is an accretion cycle before things happen in the manifested world. So
Mm-hmm.
just as you're dealing with affirmations, there's an accretion cycle that solidifies or gives substance to the thing that you've been making that affirmation around.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the accretion cycle in the periodic table as the original foundational element in matter is the hydrogen atom.
Mm-hmm.
But the hydrogen atom is simply a consolidation of a bundle of frequencies that constitute the word as they speak in the Bible. So, for instance, when they wanted to find that God particle we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
well, that God particle was actually the European man is because of his pineal is calcified. He cannot do what melanin does in the activation of Kundalini, though he can if he does certain things with his body, eats certain ways, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Melanin, being the semiconductor that it is, it has a way of channeling what's within the atom. So let me just explain what I'm saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about the Hadron Collider,
Yes.
that huge 5 mile thing that they had, that they created
Mm-hmm.
in order to smash atoms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they wanted to find out. They didn't know that the atom was not the actual smallest thing in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said, well, okay, the atom is not the smallest thing in the universe. Then what is? So what they did was they took two protons and they had it come. They started the spin and they crashed it together, two protons together. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the cycle. The two protons represents the Eta and the Pingala in your body.
Mm-hmm.
That's the two snakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When they crashed the two protons together, what it revealed itself is what they called the God particle. And what that God particle was is what we say in our class, a quantum central resonance, because the resonance looked just like a sound wave. So at the center of the very atom is a sound wave, and that's
Mm.
what we call the word in the Bible. In the beginning was the word was with God, and the word was God.
So at the center of every atom is a sound wave, you said.
It's a sound wave, it's a frequency. You can't see it,
Mm.
but the resonance is on the invisible plane. That's the active principle that actually manifests everything out from its stated design. So every thought, like I said, every thought is a design.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a design, when you think of particular thought, depending on the emotions that you put on it, because you have to have a healthy emotional body in order to create on the physical realm.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're creating, your emotions becomes the diesel fuel.
Mm.
But when it's when it's not, when it's going outward and it's angry, and you could dissipate that power,
Mm-hmm.
but you can use the power of emotion to central to give fuel to the affirmation that you're dealing with. This is why sex or the sexual intercourse is so powerful,
Cause
because you're releasing so much of your emotional energy.
right, right.
And the female would be the perfect chalice, or the perfect sounding board
Mm-hmm.
to enhance that.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because of the fact that she has an unlimited supply of that emotional, and she is the font of the emotional energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we keep it in abeyance because of the fact that we're designed more for the intellect, for the grounding of that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so the emotional energy now is what we need, is what we put into all of our affirmations, but we direct it, we focus it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the focus of emotional energy along with the design template of the affirmation that brings what you want, what you desire into being.
Mm. So your intention got to be there, and your emotions got to be there.
The proper
The
emotions.
proper emotions.
Indeed, indeed. Because you don't take the diesel fuel and you pour it all over the truck for it to work.
Right, right,
You
right.
have to put it in a specific place for it to work.
Mhm. Is that how when the chi or the qigong masters or whatever, when they have the fire coming out their hand, are they're channeling emotion through their
Yeah.
arms instead of through
And
their hands?
the emotion would be the fuel, and then intention would then spark the fire.
Okay.
Because your intention is actually the one aiming it. In other
Mm.
words, your intentions is the will
Yeah.
coming into being, so that you now can direct it. Now, the will can destroy you as well,
Right, right, right.
see, because you can take will and turn it back on yourself, and they call that ego.
Mm.
What Freud and Jung called the ego was actually free will. Free
Mm.
will displaced, free will not operating within the balance of Ma'at. But he
Wow.
also did that so that the elite white European could use certain psychological ways to say that if a poor person from a lower class sees himself as just as equal as the upper class and begins to act in that manner, then ego is what he displays. But the one who is in the upper class who does that has a great willpower.
Mm.
He can do
Mm-hmm.
whatever he wants because
Mm-hmm.
of his stature, that type of thing. That's that sick mentality that they have right now.
Mm. Family, shout out to everybody. We didn't even get started yet. Me and Doc just be vibing. We just be vibing like that. We just got off to this vibing session, but we about to get started. Let me ask one more question before we go into
Sure.
some of the things I want to go into tonight. Me
Mhm.
and Blue Pill was having this conversation last time he was on the show, and I forgot what we was talking about. But Blue was like, "Yo, the $1 million question," and you was just talking about energy. What is it about the woman? And I know you would know this. What is it about the woman that she's so hot inside? I remember when I used to work as a street vendor. outside. You came to Brooklyn and seen where I used to set up at
Yeah,
in Brooklyn,
yeah.
and I would be out there all day, so I get to see everything. The sisters would be outside with their stomach practically out during the colder winter, and they not cold. And
Hmm.
we was talking about at night. You know how the brothers get next to the big girls at nighttime and they be
Right.
warm, or your sister, or like the sisters, they'll touch you, their hands be warm. One time, my girl was massaging me with her hand. I'm like, your hand feel like an oven, baby. God damn, your hand is hot. What is it
Hmm.
about the sisters that they heat up so much, doc?
Well, it would depend on the level of fat that they have that they retain.
Mm,
There are two types of fat. There's the white fat and the brown fat.
mm,
The brown fat is the good fat. That's the fat that essentially is nurturing. The white fat is the one that insulates.
mm,
So if you have a woman, I'm not sure what the conditions were, but women are actually not the heat generators. So
mm,
you have someone that's kind of a gift.
mm,
Women get colder faster because their lungs are smaller than ours.
mm,
So they don't process oxygen into heat as efficiently as men do. Our lungs are huge compared to the female lungs.
mm,
That's
mm,
why you notice sometimes women say, well, you can feel a little bit of cool come at you, but it's intense on them.
mm,
One, because their skin is thinner than ours.
mm,
Our skin is much thicker than theirs.
mm, mm,
And because our skin is thicker, their skin thinner, they tend to get colder faster.
mm, mm,
And since their body doesn't process oxygen into heat as quickly, and they have that and the brown fat, depending on the level of the brown fat that they contain or retain,
mm,
that means that they can generate heat if they have a good abundance of the brown fat, which
mm,
probably your lady does have.
mm.
But if she's open at the stomach, check to see how much layer of fat that she has there, because
Man, the sisters was slim when I was outside. The sisters with their stomach out, they be slim.
well, some of these sisters, you look at some of these sisters. Check this out. I
Mm,
remember when I used to go partying.
mm,
These women be out there in the cold, cold weather,
yeah,
freezing to
I
look
know.
good.
I know what you're gonna say. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
you probably have a gift from heaven when you're dealing with a woman who can stay warm in cold climates and actually exhibit that warmth. Because I know
Mm,
my lady, based on her energy, I have to constantly, when we're out, if it gets drops just significantly, even in Florida, I
mm,
got to
mm,
take mine off and give it to her.
mm.
Like I said, these sisters they want to look real cute, so they come out in this weather in these little short this with the short pants, short skirts, high heels. They want to look real cute, but they cold as hell.
All right, Doc. Let's get started. Doc, listen. Oh man. Oh, real quick, family. I see we got about 2,000 people in the room already. Shout out to all of y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, family. Doc is going to be on the Patreon for all my Patreon members. Doc will be on the Patreon tomorrow. We got an uncensored conversation happening tomorrow because some things been going on that needs to be talked about, and Doc talked about it before, and we're just got to go over. And obviously we can't talk about it on YouTube, but y'all see these people that's just dropping dead. I'm talking about people playing sports, newscasters, regular people. People's heart is failing left and right. There's a lot of weird things going on that they are not telling us about. They're just brushing it off. And Doc warned us about these things that will happen. So we're gonna have a good conversation. I know y'all seen the clip on Instagram of the it was a white female on. She was a newscaster, and she was talking, and she just got
Hmm.
dizzy out of no. You seen it, right, Doc?
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that
man.
too.
The black football player, man. This is
Yeah,
crazy. This
yeah.
is insane.
But you
So
remember the last lecture that I did? I did two webinars last year and the year before. And
mm,
the last year I did it, I had 10 to 15 different um, what were they? They were athletes:
yeah,
soccer, tennis, basketball, volleyball, keeling over and dropping dead.
it's crazy, man.
Hmm.
We're gonna have a good conversation, and y'all know exactly what we talking about. Yeah, y'all saying in the chat, you know that, the Jabberwocky. Y'all know exactly what we talking
Hmm.
about. But
Right.
we're gonna continue that conversation, that uncensored conversation tomorrow on Patreon. So stay tuned for that. I'll give you more information about that early in the day. Yeah, Diamond from Diamond and Silk just died. Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
wondering if she took her back.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. You ain't say
yeah.
good. It's all good.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Mhm.
But So, all right, so it's 2023, Doc. There's good things coming down the line. You talked about the number 7, the number 8, but there's a lot of evil forces at play. So people trying to figure out, they want to elevate their consciousness, they want to elevate their spirit. They're trying to figure out how to get around these forces that we talk about. And people want to know what should they be doing right now. Maybe in 2023, what they should be doing is different from what they should be doing in 2018. We don't know. But that's what we're here to talk to you about, Doc. What do you recommend right now with the direction society's going? We see AI virtually taking over everywhere. I see AI is like advancing extremely fast. They got the chat GT and the AI artists and all of that. I don't know if all of this is slowing our elevation down spiritually, but talk to me about some of the things we need to do, Doc, at this moment in history, 2023, so-called 2023, to continue to raise our consciousness to where it should be at that time at this time.
That's a good question. The amount of work it's going to take for us to actually transition, because
Mm,
that's what we're in a transition cycle,
mm,
and that transition cycle becomes ever more um, difficult when we look to all the things that are difficult around us. We tend to adapt to the difficulty and bring it into our lives. The difficulty is going to be in us convincing ourselves that we have a solution, and we have to stop looking to them because they're stating the problem and telling you what the solution is. You're not meditating on what each of these solutions is supposed to be for you. You're looking at the news, you're hearing the problems from other people. And so the news is telling you, well, here's what your problems are: war, pestilence, famine, disease, poverty. And that's all you keep getting. The news is a cycle of death and destruction, and everything having to do with you being dependent on the next I guess solution that the people who are playing the Hegelian dialectic on you, problem reaction solution. You're looking for the solution based upon the problems they're telling you have. Well, of course, yes, they're telling you have problems based upon the ones that they impose upon you. But have you first cleared up the problems within the family?
mm,
What is your trust between you and your wife and your husband, the children and you?
mm,
What trust do you have first and foremost? What kind of relationship do you have? What are you preparing your family for?
mm,
And if you don't have a family, if you have, say, an extended family, what are you all discussing within those ranks?
mm,
Are you discussing everything based upon what they're telling you the problem is? Because the first thing we have to do is to begin to trust one another again. What
mm,
they've done is destroyed the very fabric of solution making units, and that is family.
mm,
Family always comes up with a solution because families will get together with other families knowing exactly what we need.
mm,
But now we have all these scattered relationships. We don't
mm.
even know what the genders are. We don't even, we have independent this